Shifts to Sunrise, Florida, where the defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers will look to get back in the series. Game 3 is Friday night. The Stars beat the Jets 3-2. Mikko Rantanen had a hat trick for Dallas. The Stars up 1-0 in the series. Game 2 is Friday in Winnipeg. Tonight, Hurricanes at Capitals. Game 2, Carolina leads the series 1-0. The Golden Knights will look to even up the Oilers at 1-1 at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. NBA tonight, the Warriors take on the Timberwolves. Game 2, Golden State up 1-0. Last night, Oklahoma City evened up its series with Denver at 1-1. They rolled past the Nuggets 149-106. The Knicks shocked the Celtics to go up 2-0, 91-90 the final. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Lowe's helps refresh your garden in time for Mother's Day. Right now, get 5 bags of 1.5 cubic foot Scott's Naturescapes mulch for just $10. Plus, select 1.5 gallon annuals hanging baskets make the perfect gift. Now 2 for only $15. The best garden starts with great deals. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/7. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now, no more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
You don't have to sink a 30-footer from the end of your driveway to come out of the NBA playoffs smelling like a rose. SportsGrid brings you all the angles, insights, and odds.
And more to make you a winner.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline. With the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius XM Channel 159.
Oh, man, oh, man. If you are a Celtic fan, what a tough, unfortunate scene for you. Because it's old K-Dubs, Kevin Walsh, right here on Moneyline, solo. Next hour, Donnie's still out on assignment. And let's be honest. If Donnie was here, how long would we spend on Celtics Knicks? Open the show? Sure. Beyond that, maybe not. Could be some baseball to get to. Usually a football or two headline will cross Donnie's plate. I'm not knocking DRS at all. Does a great job captaining this ship. But I'm here alone today. So we've got quite a while to talk Knicks Celtics. And there's so many different ways that we can go. The first, though, is just acknowledging how hilarious and wrong the Celtic defenders were after the Game 1 shooting performance, who swore they'll never shoot that bad again. Oh my gosh, they shot the same exact percentage from 3. And actually ended up scoring less points. Now that's just funny. We talked about this actually here on Tuesday. The outlier for Boston in that game was the 60 attempts, not the 25% percentage. Proven right immediately, 20 less attempts, same exact percentage. I'm not telling you Boston's going to shoot 25% from the field, from 3 for their whole series. That's crazy. Boston should shoot 40+% from three in at least one of the games in Madison Square Garden. But the game one reactions, where all anybody could say, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. I can't even believe Knicks fans are excited. I'm not a Knicks fan, by the way. I can't even believe Knicks fans are excited that they won that game. That'll be their last win of the series. Knicks lead the series 2-0. Knicks lead the series 2-0. The Boston Celtics have now, in losing the first two games of this series, have found themselves positioned as small dogs. Small. To lose this series. In some spots, still favored to win it. And anywhere you look, still favored to win the Eastern Conference. That also a product of Cleveland being down 2-0 to the Indiana Pacers. So for Boston, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, obviously it's over. There's no chance whatsoever that the Celtics can come back and win. But as somebody who picked the Knicks to win the series, I'm not expecting Boston to do that. I'm not seeing a lot of great value on the board on Boston right now. I picked the Knicks to win in 7. I do hold, I don't remember at the moment, 15 or 16 to 1 ticket on that exact score coming in. The thing that many would probably say is if Boston forces a game 7, no way they lose it. Whew, let's reel it back then. Let's reel it back. This start to the series for Boston is not the worst that we've seen this core get off to. No. That would be the Eastern Conference Finals in the 2023 playoffs, where Miami went up 3-0, taking the first two games in Miami, and then game number 3, or the first two games in Boston, and then game number 3 in Miami. The Celtics came back. They take game 4. They show some fight. They take game number 5. It's on their home floor. But because the Celtics were seen as so much better than the Heat, and to a degree it made sense, because of that, it was if Boston takes game 6, we know what's going to happen. And if you remember, Derek White hits a buzzer beater to not only save Boston's season. It was a tip shot. They were down 1. They won by 1. Like a little put back side, like left of the basket, if I remember correctly. But that shot seemingly was going to send the Celtics to the title. There was no way at home they weren't going to beat, if not smash, Miami, and the Celtics were steamrolled on their home floor. 103-84, dominated by the Heat. Remember Caleb Martin almost won Eastern Conference Finals MVP? And what happened in that game 7 was a real lackluster superstar performance that we'll talk about. What would also happen in that series, it felt like one of the very few times we've actually seen this Celtics team challenged by something that felt like an equal. last year, the 1 seed, they smoke a Miami team who does not have Jimmy Butler. Okay. They then go out there and are even through 2 against Cleveland. Except, whoops, there goes Donovan Mitchell. They move through that series in 5. And you're sat there and you're watching. You're like, this is wild, man. This team, I mean, the best player hurt in round 1, best player hurt round 2. What would you know? Tyrese Halliburton injured in game number 2 for the Indiana Pacers. Pacers miraculously choked away game 1. We're in the mix in game 2. Halliburton injured, and Boston ended up sweeping. But we finished the Eastern Conference playoffs as if Boston was not really battle-tested. As somebody who picked Dallas last year to win the West, I was even more confident in Boston winning the finals. And they did. And that Dallas team felt outmatched. I felt the Knicks, actually, talent-wise, should be competitive with Boston. It feels like Boston's playing somewhat of an equal. And all of a sudden, not the big, bad, historic Celtics. Who's to blame? That's next, right here on Moneyline.
Boys of summer have returned and taken the field for the great American pastime.
You should monetize that.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Cintas. The Federal Reserve kept its key interest rate unchanged on Wednesday, saying the risks of both higher unemployment and higher inflation have risen, putting the central bank in a difficult spot. The Fed kept its rate at 4.3% for the third straight meeting. Many economists still expect the Fed will reduce rates this year. Disney will build its 7th theme park, this one in the United Arab Emirates. The waterfront resort will be built on Yas Island on the outskirts of Abu Dhabi. The theme park announcement is being made ahead of a visit by President Donald Trump to the region next week. Trump has promised a series of business deals with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. A man police say crashed into Jennifer Aniston's front gate is charged with stalking and vandalism. 48-year-old Jimmy Carwile also faces an aggravated circumstance of the threat of great bodily harm. He allegedly harassed the Friends star for 2 years before crashing into the gate in the Bel Air neighborhood Tuesday. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
Attention passengers, we've reached 10,000 feet and internet is now available for purchase.
I just paid hundreds for this flight, and you can't even throw in internet? I'll just take the free pretzels.
Sorry, but I do have snack boxes for sale.
I'm just gonna sleep.
In that case, we are selling pillows and blankets as well.
I'll just breathe. That's free, right?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Something amazing is happening in networking. Organizations are scaling with less stress. That's because CDW is designing and implementing intelligent HPE Aruba networking solutions that simplify and secure operations. With automation at the center of your data center, growing pains can be a thing of the past. HPE Aruba Networking and CDW. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Aruba.
You don't have to sink a 30-footer from the end of your driveway to come out of the NBA playoffs smelling like a rose. SportsGrid brings you all the angles, insights, and odds.
And more to make you a winner.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, we're back right here on SportsGrid. Yeah, maybe my smile's a little villainous to see the Boston deficit right now. I picked the Knicks. So you like to see when a bold pick comes in. Now, the series isn't over. But the notion of picking the Knicks was seen as preposterous. My favorite bet in the series was over 5.5 games, plus 125. You were getting better odds on over 5.5 games than Knicks plus 2.5 games. Now, you would say Knicks plus 2.5 games is already a winner, which is why the outrageous price of the Knicks, I think it was 18-1 minus 2.5, I was able to play on a free bet for next to nothing that like ultimately I think would pay out more than the over 5.5 games. It was just, I still think we're going over 5.5 games, by the way. There's a real Knicks angle of this that we're going to get to as well. I promise you. But I want to get to the Boston thing for a second. So I think now, and truly, I know, look, no one can ever take a championship away from you, okay? The Golden State Warriors, the first year they beat the Cavs, it's an outrageous championship. Cleveland clearly would have dusted that team if just Kyrie stayed healthy, much less Kyrie and Kevin Love. The Warriors still won the title. They still hung the banner. Steph tells people he has 4 championships because he has 4 championships. No one's going to take the title away from Boston. But when we're evaluating some stuff, all-time legacies, right? Faith that you have in a team. If this ends up, right? If this ends up all of a sudden a bit of a... I mean, if the Knicks win this in 5, if the Knicks win this series, it is a bad look for the Celtics, undoubtedly. And there's going to be a ton that shifts to Joe Mazzulla. There's going to be a ton that gets put on Mazzulla's plate. Understandably. I actually think Boston blowing consecutive 20-point leads at home to a team that the Celtics dominated in the regular season, while the Celtics offense completely falls apart in the fourth quarter, I think it has been so bad that despite winning 60 games like no problem as the head coach of the Celtics group, despite winning the championship last year, it actually feels like Mazzulla's on the hot seat. I'm not saying if they lose this series, he gets fired, and I'm not telling you I would fire Mazzulla. I actually think that because he's won a championship, I think some teams, some organizations, this is just a general sports thing, should be more willing to give coaches, like, if you sign a coach to a 4-year deal, you should almost be like, we're going to re-up. But if there's some struggles within the first 4 years, it'll be at a little bit of a lesser number. I know like 4 years might seem like a lot in the sports world, but like ultimately, when you hire young coaches, you have to give them a lot of time. Mazzulla's returned a championship to Boston. I'm not saying I'd fire him. But if you look at the story for 90% of people in this series is the Celtics 3-point shooting. It is this idea that all they know how to do is shoot threes. They have no counter to when the threes aren't falling. Even when there is an opportunity to attack the basket comfortably, the thought is Mazzulla is still just telling them to shoot threes. Nobody seems to care, understandably, in this moment that they won last year's championship when you're trying to win this year's championship. They've blown consecutive 20-point leads on their home floor. If this ends up Knicks in 5, it feels like Mazzulla would be on the hot seat. Now, perhaps Boston won't want that. Again, Boston should not want this amount of turnover, right? From Stevens, who then just decided to go up to the front office, to Ime Udoka, who had all the off-court stuff that led to him being let go of, to now Mazzulla. Despite this team consistently being a contender, they've had 3 coaches in short order. I don't think they want a 4th. But again, blame Pie. It feels as if Joe Mazzulla, for the public, and I don't know if it's the case internally, in terms of the Celtics, but it feels like he has been given the biggest, by a lot, slice of the pie. Like, it almost feels as if anyone who is shooting poorly from three, anyone who is shooting poorly from three, it's not their fault for shooting poorly from three. It's Missoula's for making them shoot threes. The fact that some Celtics get a mismatch on an island and their thought is jab, step back, three, as opposed to just get to the cup. A lot of that seems like it's going to fall on Missoula, which is fascinating. My eye, though, it goes towards Jason Tatum. Here is the simplest way I can put this, and we will expand on it on the other side. If Jason Tatum was as good as Celtics fans want others to think he is, maybe even as good as he thinks he is, then the Celtics would be probably going for a three-peat. The Celtics would be minus money favorites for a title. But he's not at the level that people think. And it's obvious. And we'll talk, but it's getting worse. So we'll talk about it now.
Stamping out the boredom in baseball year after year. We bring you all the angles, insights, and information you need. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
In 1947, a movement among St. Louis Cardinals players to protest its first meeting with Jackie Robinson and the Dodgers is halted after owner Sam Braden spoke to the team. And in 1973, Ernie Banks fills in as Cubs manager after Whitey Lockman was ejected during the game. Technically, Banks became baseball's first African-American manager. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New artificial intelligence research at the Institute of Science Tokyo intends to revolutionize the creation of perfume.
The sweet smell of petunias.
AI programmed with mass spectrometer profiles of essential oils rapidly creates new scents.
Subtle hints of desperation eau de toilette.
With user-defined odor descriptors.
Slightly burnt toast cologne.
Eliminating trial and error.
The clean woody scent of my laundry basket.
AI streamlining labor-intensive specialized perfuming means scalable production and unique fragrances.
I call it eau de sweaty tapeworm.
Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
I have been watching the lowly Pirates play. They are the most anemic, horrible lineup I've ever seen in my life. Stone, ground, ass, mustard.
It's Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Farrell. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. On the home of the winning edge. The SportsGrid Radio Network. In baseball, a batter gets 3 strikes. In sports gaming,
you get 1.
No do-overs.
You need all the help you can get. And that's what you get with us. Your trusted source for gaming odds and more. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, what do you say, folks? What do you say we talk a little Jason Tatum? Here's the deal. As JT has started this series, 12 of 42 from the line, 18 points a game on 28.6 shooting from the field, 25% from 3. There are some people who legitimately will be like, oh, he's having 15 rebounds and 6 assists. Like, cut it out, man. Cut it out. Here's my thing with Tatum. All right, so there's a couple things. Jason Tatum, and I want to get the exacts on this for you guys, okay? So Jason Tatum is going to end up finishing Top 5 in MVP voting this season, probably 4th. Jason Tatum, so let's just say he's 100% going to continue this trend. This will be the 4th consecutive season that Jason Tatum will finish 6th or better in MVP voting, and the 4th consecutive season he will finish first team All-NBA. That is an incredible accomplishment. There's no pushing back on that. But occasionally, you will find Celtics fans so confused when people say Tatum isn't the best player in the world and he is not close to the best player in the world. But it is just true. Someone has to finish 4th or 5th or 6th. Someone has to round out the All-NBA teams. Jason Tatum has never had a legitimate case to win league MVP. He's never come close. Those Tatum MVP bets that you make year in and year out, those bets end up having as much of a chance to win as the bowl price that they hang out. He's never come close to winning league MVP. But that's okay, unless you attempt to demand that we treat him like he is on that level. But he's not. But the thing for Tatum is, the regular season stuff now doesn't really matter, right? It's all about the playoffs. So I mentioned the series against Miami. And Tatum played really well in that series overall. He played solid. But the Game 7 performance at home, he scored 14 points on 5 of 13 shooting. He did finish that series 2 of 18 from 3 in the final 3 games. That was a devastating series loss for Boston. Remember, the year before, they went to the finals, where he was atrocious. Atrocious. But he's young, right? So you can get past that. But it happened. So we wait, because he's not going to win a league MVP, so the regular season is fine. They're just going to win their 16 games. We wait to get to the postseason. And last year was, I'm going to answer the bell. Round 1 against Miami. Did not look good at all. Nobody would argue it. 22 points on 42% from the field and 29% from 3. Jason Tatum went under his 3-point prop in the first 9 games of the NBA playoffs last season. Jason Tatum, in 19 playoff games, shot 50% or better from the field 3 times. Jason Tatum not winning conference finals MVP was largely because Jaylen Brown had the series of his life. Jason Tatum not winning finals MVP is because, once again, over the full finals, he shot under 40% from the field. He has played 11 finals games and has never been above 50% from the field in a single one of them. So here we are again, and he's had 1 game over 50% shooting in these playoffs. That's a problem. That's a really big problem.
The NBA playoffs.
It all comes down to this.
And we'll give you all the angles to make sure you win a little something something. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. NBA playoffs, the Knicks surged back again to take a 2-0 lead on the Celtics. 91-90 the final last night. Michael Bridges sealed another 20-point comeback with his second straight game-ending steal. Jalen Brunson had 17 for New York and made a pair of free throws with 12.7 seconds left on the clock to give New York a 91-90 lead. Jaylen Brown and Derek White scored 20 points each for the Celtics. Now the series heads to Madison Square Garden, Game 3 this Saturday afternoon. The Thunder evened up their second-round series with the Nuggets at 1-1. Oak City with a huge 149-106 win last night. 34 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. All the Oak City starters had double figures in points. They held Nikola Jokic to just 17. Game 3 is this Friday night in Denver. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Welcome to Staples.
Hi, I hear Staples prints it all.
Oh, you bet. Posters, banners.
Can you print it all for Father's Day?
Oh, of course. Photo gifts like canvas prints, photo puzzles.
Can you print it all for graduation?
Sure can. Custom cards and invites.
Can you print a huge banner with the grad's picture?
Oh, definitely.
Even an embarrassing baby picture?
Oh, those are the best kind.
I know, right?
Print it all for dads and grads at Staples. And right now, get 40% off custom cards, invites, and photo gifts. N75 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
Something amazing is happening in networking. Organizations are scaling with less stress. That's because CDW is designing and implementing intelligent HPE Aruba networking solutions that simplify and secure operations. With automation at the center of your data center, growing pains can be a thing of the past. HPE Aruba Networking and CDW. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Aruba.
Let's keep it real.
Baseball can be boring.
That's where Sports Grid comes in.
Nothing livens up those 9 innings like sports gaming. You might experience something you've never felt in a baseball game, a quickened pulse. This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Back with you on Sports Grid. Kevin Walsh here, Moneyline Sirius XM Channel 159 on a Thursday. Fallout from yesterday's Wild Wednesday. I know I've talked a lot of Celtics, but I think it's important. The defending champs could potentially find themselves bounced out in round number 2, which did actually happen, believe it or not, last year. The Denver Nuggets, the defending champs, bounced round number 2. Last year, the defending champs lost the first 2 games at home. You know what they did after that? They won the next 3. And then lost the final 2, including a Game 7 on their home floor where they had a 20-point lead. Not great. Not great. But if by chance you are wild enough to say, why don't you slander Jokic like that? One, I feel like I might be one of the more critical voices remaining on Jokic, who, despite, he's obviously, again, an all-time great. It's just figuring out where he lands on that. Jokic averages 29 points per game in that series on 52% shooting from the field, while also, of course, chipping in, a near triple-double. That, though, should have been held against Jokic a little bit more. It should have been. We're going to very, very soon get to the Nuggets Thunder game last night. But I do want to throw something back to the Knicks. Most, if not all, Knicks fans felt that they were not going to win this series, not be competitive in this series, and would be happy with any win. It's a fine way to look at it, right? I know that I was, me thinking the Knicks would win this series. It's just how I felt, right? We don't have to open that thing, but I wasn't like, I don't understand why nobody thinks that. I totally understood the feeling that Boston would dominate this series. I understood it. My question, though, is if you're the Knicks, and the Knicks have 3 home games in this series. If they do not play the third, it means they won the series, right? Assuming they play 3 home games, The Knicks have to win 2 out of the 3 games in Madison Square Garden, right? In order to win this series. If that does not happen, let's say they only win 1. That would match what they did in round 1 at home. If the Knicks, after all of this, with the atmosphere of the Garden, go 2-4 in their own building and blow a 2-0 lead to Boston with a trip to the conference finals on the line, where it is presently expected if they get through, they will have home court advantage against the Pacers team, who last year many Knicks fans believe they would have beat had they just stayed healthy. Who pays the price for that? Like, ultimately, I think there should have been some questions around Tibbs if the Knicks were smashed, dominated, and rolled by Boston. I was largely on an island with that one, though. If the Knicks do not get through Boston now, is the idea like, hey, we hung, it was competitive, we're close, first year really with this team, overhauled a lot, we're going to get there? I'm not saying blow up the roster, though I think the Knicks will kick the tires on the Giannis situation. That's just doing your due diligence. If they don't win the series, like, what's the excuse now? Because you can't go up 2-0 and then be like, come on, like, we never had a chance. That team is so much better than us. They're not. They're not so much better than you. They shouldn't be. If they played so much better than you, that's one thing, but they shouldn't be so much better than you. And I don't think they are. Obviously, that's why I picked the Knicks. You know who is so much better than their opponent? OKC. 149-106. They doubled up the Nuggets in the first quarter to start. They absolutely smashed Denver. 149-106. They led by as many as 49 in this game. The Nuggets could not make a 2-point field goal to save their life. They turned the ball over 21 times. Nikola Jokic was atrocious in the game. 6 of 16 from the field, a minus 36. Every single player in the starting lineup for Denver was at least a minus 25, with 4 of the 5 being a minus 34. So there's so much fascination around Denver and like where this series is going to go. But I am fascinated in if I'm right about this series, I am fascinated in what the conversation is about Denver. So what is me being right about this series? It is that Denver has won their last playoff game. And I'm not sure Denver will be inside 10 points again in this series. That's how I feel. I know it's heavy. I know it sounds extreme. That's how I feel about these teams right now. Denver going into the series against the Clippers closed as a series underdog. After 3 games in that series, the notion was they were completely outmanned and outmatched. They had absolutely nothing for the Clippers. Now, while I thought that was extreme and didn't agree with it, I found it interesting how dismissed that notion was after Game 1, when the Nuggets' Game 1 victory was an improbable comeback that should have never happened. For the Nuggets, right? Give their guys, their key guys, so much credit for getting it done. especially Nikola Jokic with a brilliant 42-22-6 game. Aaron Gordon again hitting a huge shot. Aaron Gordon cementing himself as a legitimate Denver Nugget legend. I don't think he passes Jamal Murray, but he's cementing himself. But if you now look, if OKC did not fumble that game away, and then you watch game 2, do you think there would still be a part of your mind that goes, Denver's got to get one at home? As opposed to what we're hearing of Denver's definitely getting one at home. The notion of the best player in the world should win one of the 2 games on his home floor. Sure. I don't think that's crazy. But the game 1 fumble from OKC flipped the narrative to, come on, they're definitely going to win a game in Denver. Are they? Because the Thunder might have found a perfect solution to making sure they don't fumble a game late again. Just absolutely club this team until the series is over. The Thunder are much better than them, both sides of the floor. So what if I'm right? We'll try and figure it out next with you on a Thursday on Moneyline.
By the end, you might not have a ring on your finger. Stay tuned and you'll have a little something in your pocket. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Major League Baseball on Wednesday. The Guardians beat the Nationals 8-6. The Astros pounded the Brewers 9-1 in Milwaukee. The Cardinals shut out the Pirates 5-0. Sonny Gray's 4-1 with the win. 8 strikeouts, 2 hits allowed over 7 full. The Mets beat the Diamondbacks 7-1. The Dodgers pounded the Marlins 10-1. The Phillies over the Rays 7-0. In 10 innings, the Tigers beat the Rockies 8-6. The Royals got by the White Sox 2-1. The Twins over the Orioles 5-2. The Reds nipped the Braves 4-3. The Yankees over the Padres 4-3 in 10 innings. San Diego's Dylan Cease had a no-hitter going until the 7th. Cody Bellinger broke it up with a homer, then Cease left the game with a cramp in his right forearm. The Mariners got by the A's 6-5. The Giants beat the Cubs 3-1 at Wrigley. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Welcome to Staples.
Hi, I hear Staples prints it all.
Oh, you bet. Posters, banners.
Can you print it all for Father's Day?
Oh, of course. Photo gifts like canvas prints, photo puzzles.
Can you print it all for graduation?
Sure can. Custom cards and invites.
Can you print a huge banner with the grad's picture?
Oh, definitely.
Even an embarrassing baby picture?
Oh, those are the best kind.
I know, right?
Print it all for dads and grads at Staples. And right now, get 40% off custom cards, invites, and photo gifts. N75 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
Something amazing is happening in networking. Organizations are scaling with less stress. That's because CDW is designing and implementing intelligent HPE Aruba networking solutions that simplify and secure operations. With automation at the center of your data center, growing pains can be a thing of the past. HPE Aruba Networking and CDW. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Aruba.
You know what's better than a limited time deal? An unlimited time deal. That's why the Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag with a Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, 4-piece nugs, Junior Hot and Crispy Fries, and small soft drink is available all the time. Because the best time for fresh, never frozen beef and Applewood smoked bacon is all the time. Duh. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. For the best deal of all time, gotta be Wendy's.
Unlimited time does not mean forever. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska, Hawaii, and California and via third-party delivery. Fresh beef available in the contiguous U.S., Alaska, and Canada.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
Springtime. When a young man's fancy turns to...
Get your mind out of the gutter.
For sports gaming strategies and information that gives you an unfair advantage, you'll find it all right here.
It's the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, back right here on this Thursday. So just hear me out quick, all right? OKC, I believe, will win the rest of the games in this series. I think they will finish this series in 5. I think there is a very real chance that they end up winning the rest of the games by 10 or more. I really feel very strongly about OKC in this series. I lay the series spread minus 1.5 games. I have tickets on the Thunder to win the West once the Lakers were eliminated because it just became obvious to me. That's how I felt, at least. So if I'm right, what does it mean for Denver? Less important to the organization, more important to someone like myself, maybe some of you. For Nikola Jokic, it's a fascinating one, right? It'll be a little bit of a missed opportunity. We talked about this on Tuesday, but if Jokic and the Nuggets did win this series, it would put them then in an incredible position to make the finals, at which point it would be, some would argue it would be a better accomplishment than even winning the championship. And quite frankly, if Jokic did win the title this year, it would be an all-time achievement, and it would push him pretty firmly, I feel, into the top 10 players of all time. I really believe that is on the board if he won the championship this year. Now, that is so it'll be tough, right? You take that 1-0 series lead, you tell yourself, hey, we just got to win our home games, right? It's the same thing. You have home court advantage. You've got home court advantage. You just got to win your home games now. Denver's been great at home with Jokic and Murray. I don't think it's going to happen. So you miss out on and I know people, Jokic doesn't care about that stuff. I think he cares more. I think he cares more than everyone else thinks he cares. I understand that, if you told him, like, hey, is the driving force to winning becoming the greatest player of all time? Not as much as it is just he wants to win, but nevertheless, that is the big picture stuff that's fleeting. But that's true if they just lose the series, right? Like if they lose it in 5, if they lose it in 6, they lose it in 7, he will have missed that opportunity. And it won't be held against him. It just, it would be a rocket ship up the all-time leaderboard. But if I'm right that this series is essentially over, then what happens with the Nuggets in the offseason? Because they fired their coach, they fired their GM, and nobody thinks that having the consensus best player on the planet and not being able to make the conference finals is acceptable. I said that here on this show, and then 3 hours later, they fired everybody. Because the Nuggets organization they're not ridiculous. I give them some credit. Like, Jokic cannot be this great, and we have no chance to win the title. It's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. So if they don't win another game, then it'll feel as if, okay, we didn't actually have a real legit chance again. Now what? Is it a simple Michael Porter Jr. trade? Is it an aggressive Jamal Murray move? Who's the target? Is someone like Kevin Durant interested in going to Denver? Is someone like Giannis interested in going to Denver? Maybe not. Are there teams who could be open to a teardown, open to a reassessment that may, would the Nuggets take a run at Sabonis? Would the Nuggets take a run at Zach LaVine if the Kings tear the whole thing down? What about Zion? What about Ja Morant? I think the Nuggets, if the Nuggets have won their last game in these playoffs, even if they win one more, their offseason becomes it better become must watch. I think that's fair to say. Nobody expects Jokic to ask out. That's great. He doesn't need to. But we got to see what this is going to be. I'll throw this out here quickly because I know I've done a lot of NBA for everyone. You knew that was happening. Tonight's game for Minnesota is an absolute must-win against Golden State. But I also cannot see a world in which they lose it. And I did not play it. I didn't attack as aggressively as I did with OKC. But I have similar feelings around Minnesota Golden State. That's because of the Steph injury. Now, if Steph was not injured, then the Warriors' chances in this series, obviously after taking an opening game, are much more. The Golden State Warriors should not be able to win a single game against the Timberwolves without Steph. This should be 3-1, 100% to me, when Steph returns. If, by the way, he's even ready at that point in time. We'll close it out next. Moneyline live on a Thursday.
We don't care what your high school girlfriend told you. You are a winner.
Or at least you will be if you keep it here.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The new SportsGrid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the SportsGrid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime. On the go, wherever you are. Download the SportsGrid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
For anyone who's worried about back taxes, has not filed tax returns, and doesn't know what to do next, stop and listen. Not filing your taxes can have severe consequences, especially in this political climate. Now that COVID is over, the IRS is getting aggressive, massively increasing enforcement and collection efforts. With politicians making all sorts of promises, especially when it comes to taxes, hiding and not dealing with your taxes will cause you harsh legal and financial ramifications. But right now, the IRS offers forgiveness and writes off a massive amount of tax debt. The Tax Doctor offers a free service that helps people get out of IRS collections and back in good standing with the government. Don't hide or bury your head in the sand. Take advantage of our free service. Call now to learn more. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. 800-816-4492. That's 800-816-4492.
Football full circle.
The Pittsburgh Steelers deal George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys, and could that just potentially open up the door for good old Aaron Rodgers to walk into Mike Tomlin's office?
I'm not the biggest George Pickens fan. I think he's a malcontent. It, to me, is addition by subtraction. To me, this is a sign that says Rodgers isn't coming.
It's Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and Joe Lisi. Weekdays, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. If you want to be an alpha,
you've got to get the winning edge.
It's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory.
With the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, let's close it out. Happy to have you here on a Thursday on Moneyline. So, a couple of things, all right? Tonight, the NHL playoffs resume with two really important games where the road teams, just like the NBA playoffs, started hot. Carolina is in Washington, booked as a favorite. I played something in game number one that did not win, but to some degree, I was prepared for that because if it happened, especially the way it happened, it would definitely be a play for game number 2, and that is Sebastian Aho and Seth Jarvis each for a point. A little simple SGP. That missed in game number 1 with neither guy getting a point. That also happened in their series against the Devils. Both had a point in each of the remaining games of the series against the Devils. So I'm going to look to a Jarvis-Aho combination in Washington. Vegas drops the game to Edmonton. Good for the Oilers, who are now climbing up the outright market, sitting with the third best price overall to win the Stanley Cup. Vegas is now plus 176 to win this series. To come back and win it in 6 or less sits at a 4-1 price. You can get Vegas at plus 470 now to win the Western Conference. Their outright market is 10-1. I've had some interest in this Vegas team, but all of a sudden it feels like Edmonton is just a head-down machine. They've won overall now 5 consecutive playoffs games with at least 3 goals in every single game. So far in this postseason, they have scored 4 or more goals in all but 2 of their playoff games. So they have been fantastic so far. Offensively, what do you expect when it's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl? There is some interest to me on playing the Aiden Hill under saves prop. That was actually a sneaky winner in game number 1. Now, he had 28 shots on net, obviously 4 goals. You know what happened. Vegas was at their best in round 1 when they were just limiting shots overall. If they can get back to that, you could see Hill go under that number. Not because it's a bad performance, just less shots for him to defend. Major League Baseball board tonight features a couple at Coors, which will be nice as Detroit and Colorado will look to make up to. Bubic has been brilliant for KC as they look to hand another loss to the Chicago White Sox, who are now a 10-27 team on the season. Also, we are starting to see the AL Central heat up a little bit now. A 5-game win streak for Kansas City. Still, though, with just the third best record overall, 22-16 Royals, 22-15 Guardians, and the best record right now in the American League, the Detroit Tigers, are at 23-13. Give that group credit. Look, they're going to pick on. They are going to pick on the Chicago White Sox. Even the Twins are starting to put it together a little bit. They've won 4 consecutive. The slate starts off with Minnesota and Bailey Ober booked as favorites over the pathetic, should-be-embarrassed Baltimore Orioles. The fact that team won 100 games, looked like legit contenders at the deadline. The following season did absolutely nothing, and then entered the offseason doing even less than that. Has put them in a position now where they are one of the worst teams in the American League, and it is quite pathetic. You also have the Braves and their hunt to get to 500. It's just been something fascinating for me to just follow and see if they can get there. They had the opportunity yesterday to get to 18-18. This team's only time is 500. The only time was when they were 0-0. They had the chance yesterday. They did lose to the Cincinnati Reds, which put Cincinnati actually back up to 500 on the season. NBA board tonight, we mentioned it, of course. It is Minnesota and Golden State. A tricky spot where I had capped a bet that I was going to play all series long, which was the Ant Edwards-Steph Curry combo over made threes market, just to watch Steph hit 3 early ones and then exit this game. Ant, though, has gone 1 of 16 from beyond the arc in his last 2 games. Ant Edwards was incredible driving the basketball, specifically in the second half. But at some point, I imagine Ant heats up from 3. The simple, straightforward approach, though, might just be Anthony Edwards over the 27.5 points. Donnie will be back tomorrow. I will see you Saturday on Betting Above the Rim. Best of luck here on a Thursday. We've got football full circle.
actionable insights, analysis, odds, and expert perspective on sports gaming.
12.7 seconds left on the clock to give New York a 91-90 lead. Jaylen Brown and Derek White scored 20 points each for the Celtics. Now the series heads to Madison Square Garden, Game 3 this Saturday afternoon. The Thunder evened up their second-round series with the Nuggets at 1-1. Oak City with a huge 149-106 win last night. 34 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. All the Oak City starters had double figures in points. They held Nikola Jokic to just 17. Game 3 is this Friday night in Denver. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Welcome to Staples.
Hi, I hear Staples prints it all.
Oh, you bet. Posters, banners.
Can you print it all for Father's Day?
Oh, of course. Photo gifts like canvas prints, photo puzzles.
Can you print it all for graduation?
Sure can. Custom cards and invites.
Can you print a huge banner with the grad's picture?
Oh, definitely.
Even an embarrassing baby picture?
Oh, those are the best kind.
I know, right?
Print it all for dads and grads at Staples. And right now, get 40% off custom cards, invites, and photo gifts. N75 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
Something amazing is happening in networking. Organizations are scaling with less stress. That's because CDW is designing and implementing intelligent HPE Aruba networking solutions that simplify and secure operations. With automation at the center of your data center, growing pains can be a thing of the past. HPE Aruba Networking and CDW. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Aruba.
If you want to be an alpha,
You've got to get the winning edge.
it's kind of a necessary ingredient if you want to lead the pack. So mark your territory.
With the winning edge.
You're in the big leagues. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Welcome to Football Full Circle right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network, Sirius Channel 159. Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel talking NFL for the next hour. A very light news day and week so far outside the George Pickens trade that we discussed yesterday. Scott, I do want to bring up the situation with Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill. He underwent another procedure on the wrist, his second in terms of the offseason. Just big picture on Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins. I think you and I are both tempered on expectations for this team. But can Tyreek Hill bounce back with a big season in 2025?
Yeah, listen, he came close to last year to 1,000 yards, right? So his season wasn't awful. He didn't fall off the perch completely, but was he in the years past? No. Can he bounce back? Yeah, but looking at the odds of Vegas, the boys in Vegas don't think so. 70-1 to win it all. They have the GM and the head coach basically telling the world that, listen, we would trade this guy if anybody wants him. They were asking an exorbitant price, 2 first-round picks. But why would you do that? Why would you go to a press conference? No one's giving you 2 first-round picks for him and tell the world that he's available. They did the same thing with Patrick Ramsey, right? Or Jalen Ramsey, rather. So same thing. This Dolphin team's kind of going the other way. They're not going positive. Now, if they ever got rid of Tyreek Hill, that would really signal the end. So, if he doesn't bounce back and have a 13, 14, 1,500-yard season, then the Dolphins are in a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, you look at all the off-the-field situation regarding Tyreek Hill, knowing about how they want to get rid of Jalen Ramsey, but they can't unload him, to your point. What does that lead in terms of the chemistry for this team? And it came out prior to the draft that a lot of veteran players were not happy with their head coach, Mike McDaniel, which I actually thought was more of a player's coach than their former head coach, Brian Flores, that got run out of town, right, for the way he treated Tua and the way he treated some of those players. And now you go the other way with Mike McDaniel, and now they still haven't been able to get over the hump, right? They can make a playoff appearance, haven't won a playoff game, since 2000? Was it 2000 or 2004 that they're on a playoff drought in terms of wins? And you have the offense, but you've never had the defense to compete with the likes of the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills. And unfortunately, until that changes, Scott, I think the Dolphins are just a middle-of-the-road team.
Yeah. The thought that they're going to make the playoffs and actually win a playoff game, I think I'm double-checking here. I got all my football notes, but I think they have the longest streak. Yeah. 2000. They haven't
2000.
won a playoff game since 2000. That is the longest drought in the NFL, third longest in the four major sports when you combine, basketball, football, baseball, and hockey. The third longest. I mean, you think about all the bad teams that are in these leagues and have been in the leagues, and yet the Dolphins have the longest drought in the NFL and the third longest in all the four major sports. That's how bad that franchise has been.
And think about some of the other franchises just in the AFC. The Jets, right? They made it to the championship, right, in 2011 with Mark Sanchez and Rex Ryan. You look at the Colts that have basically been just a middle-of-the-road team, but they won a Super Bowl, obviously, with Peyton Manning back in the day. So the Dolphins, again, what will it take, Scott, to say that the Dolphins are a legitimate contender? Like, they could be a compiler again in the regular season. They could potentially, let's just say, be an 11-6 football team. But come playoff time, are you buying into McDaniel? Are you buying into Tua? Especially if they have to go to a cold weather environment like Buffalo or like Kansas City, where they went a couple of years ago and got kicked in the teeth and just got boat raced 26-7. That is, when you look at the odds, it's not worth the risk. Even at 70 to 1.
And then you throw in the Tua health factor. He's always a risk for another concussion, right? I mean, this really does have disaster written all over it, Joe. And there's just no reason to think, realistically anyway, that this year would be any different than all the other years. I mean, they can't beat Buffalo, 2-13 against Josh Allen and the Bills. They can't win in cold weather, 0-5 when it's 40 degrees. And that's not even cold 40 degrees, but 40 degrees or less. They're 0-5. They can't win on the West Coast. They can't beat good teams. All the records are all against the lousy teams. And that just doesn't flip, when they didn't really make any kind of wholesale great changes on offense or defense, as far as I can see this offseason. So why should things change? I think they're closer to not making the playoffs and get the coach fired than they are make the playoffs and actually win a playoff game.
No, I agree with you. I don't think they're going anywhere with Mike McDaniel at the helm. So this leads to a bigger question then, Scott, as to potentially, let's say Mike McDaniel is not the head coach in 2026. Who would you rather see on the sidelines? Would you rather see a veteran coach that has big game experience? And I'll just throw out two names, not specifically linking them to the job, but Belichick or Gruden, like a type of coach like that. Or would you want to go another hot coordinator like they did with Mike McDaniel, an OC or a DC to potentially elevate this team next season?
Yeah. By the way, Dolphins 5-20 against winning teams, 25-11 against losing teams. I mean, they don't beat anybody that's any good, home or away. It's just awful. So I would take Gruden. Listen, I know he's going to bring some baggage in there, but I think that's eventually going to go away. You come up with something to explain why he said with those in emails. Maybe he's joking. He was there. Whatever the case may be, you survive that storm, and then you have a really, really good head coach. So I would take the veteran head coach. I would, rather than the young. They tried the young guy. It didn't work out.
Yeah,
you don't know what you're getting with the young guy. So give me the old veteran head coach.
And they missed out, like when they made the push for Harbaugh, right? When Ross made the push for Harbaugh when he was still at Michigan, and that didn't go through, that was potentially the way to elevate this team to a championship. It didn't work out. They go with McDaniel. It looked like the first year they were going to be one of the most explosive teams from an offensive perspective, but it was still the dark cloud, the question mark that has hampered this team for basically the last 30 years is that their defense is just not up to par and as physical as some of the better teams in the conference and even on all of the NFL. We're looking at the Miami Dolphins just from a defensive perspective, Scott, and they got some nice pieces in the draft over the past couple of seasons, but they haven't elevated to the likes of what we see even Baltimore, or more importantly, what we see Kansas City and even the Philadelphia Eagles that dominated the Super Bowl last year. For them to get to that level, they're still about 2 or 3 draft classes away.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like they haven't tried. Like you said, Joe, you bring in Bradley Chubb, you give him $1 gazillion. You thought that was good. You use a first rounder on Chop Robinson. You got Jalen Ramsey. You got a couple of guys. You had Jalen Phillips, first round pick, right? You have some names and some draft choices that you used on defense. So is it the players bad evaluating? Was it the defensive coordinators bad coaching? I don't know what it was, but this defense has not been good for the most part over the last couple of seasons.
Let me ask you, if they are, let's just say, week number 10, if they're 4-6 or 4-7 after week number 11, and it's going to take a monumental effort to get back into the playoff push, would you start dealing pieces now in the middle of the season, like Tyreek Hill, maybe even getting rid of Tua, or do you feel like Tua is the quarterback you can at least keep and build around? I don't believe so. I think if we can get some value for the playmakers, chop it all down and start from the middle, start from the ground up. I like Chop Robinson. I like Phillips when he's healthy. But at the end of the day, they're still not as physical as some of the other teams in the conference.
Yeah. Good news, bad news. They do have the NFC North, which is the bad news, but they do have the the AFC North rather, but they do have the NFC South, which would be the good news to kind of balance that all off. I would be dumping players. I'm not a Tua guy, never have been. I would have gotten rid of him, but the moment you drafted him, I would have traded him. To tell you the truth.
I'm with you. I would make the bet right now. Mike McDaniel, first coach fired in 2025. We'll come back. We'll dive into some conference odds right here on Football Full Circle. Coming right back.
Four out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid, and we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin.
He just gives that vibe.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Cintas. The Federal Reserve kept its key interest rate unchanged on Wednesday, saying the risks of both higher unemployment and higher inflation have risen, putting the central bank in a difficult spot. The Fed kept its rate at 4.3% for the third straight meeting. Many economists still expect the Fed will reduce rates this year. Disney will build its 7th theme park, this one in the United Arab Emirates. The waterfront resort will be built on Yas Island on the outskirts of Abu Dhabi. The theme park announcement is being made ahead of a visit by President Donald Trump to the region next week. Trump has promised a series of business deals with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. A man police say crashed into Jennifer Aniston's front gate is charged with stalking and vandalism. 48-year-old Jimmy Carwile also faces an aggravated circumstance of the threat of great bodily harm. He allegedly harassed the Friends star for 2 years before crashing into the gate in the Bel Air neighborhood Tuesday. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
When you switch to Progressive, you could save bundling your home and auto. Then you could put that money towards some of the surprisingly more expensive things in life.
Attention passengers, we've reached 10,000 feet and internet is now available for purchase.
I just paid hundreds for this flight and you can't even throw in internet? I'll just take the free pretzels.
Sorry, but I do have snack boxes for sale.
I'm just gonna sleep.
In that case, we are selling pillows and blankets as well.
I'll just breathe. That's free, right?
Life costs a lot, so bundle and you could save with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Something amazing is happening in networking. Organizations are scaling with less stress. That's because CDW is designing and implementing intelligent HPE Aruba networking solutions that simplify and secure operations. With automation at the center of your data center, growing pains can be a thing of the past. HPE Aruba Networking and CDW. Make amazing happen. Learn more at cdw.com/Aruba.
There's something you should know and always remember.
SportsGrid does not increase luck.
We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck,
go find a horseshoe.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, breaking down the AFC and NFC odds. Left off talking about the situation with Tyreek Hill. How will that affect his performance in 2025? Only time will tell. Scott and I both believe that the Dolphins, middle-of-the-road team outside the playoffs, they do have a 70-1 number to make and win the Super Bowl this year. Keep believing if you're a Dolphin fan. We've both been feeling the pain for about 40 years, so we'll see how it plays out. Scott, we've been doing some of these make the playoffs, miss the playoffs. I do want to just dive into some win totals that we haven't had an opportunity to break down on the show. We talked about Houston yesterday. What about the Colts? You know, we talk about the situation with Anthony Richardson. He is the favorite to start on their center week number 1 at -265. There were some rumors that Daniel Jones and the OTAs look very sharp. It's plus money for him to win the starting job. 7.5 is their win total this year. Minus 110 either way. I like Steichen as a head coach, but do you think they could get to 8 wins knowing that, Anthony Richardson is still inconsistent as a quarterback?
It's 8 and 9, right? So again, it's not even 500. They have weapons. They have running backs. They got wide receivers. Do they have a quarterback? That's the question. They play average. Here's your Arizona Cardinals on their schedule. Looking at their schedule now, they got Tennessee Titans. Obviously twice. They got Jacksonville twice. So and Houston obviously. So they should go 3-3. I think that's a fair out of the division. And you throw on the Raiders, then you throw on the Cardinals, our Dolphins, Falcons. They got some win them. Titans. Well, obviously Titans. I would say, that they could get 8 wins. Danny Nichols stinks, but he's not awful. He can, and I think eventually he'll be the starting quarterback. Can he get you to 8 and 9? Yeah, I think they can be an 8-9 football team.
Well, he can. And here's the thing when you just look at Anthony Richardson, right? First year, he had the good, the high highs, the low lows. He was injured for much of the regular season. 2023 completes only 59% of his passes, 577 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He comes back last year. You're like, okay, we'll see what we get. He's, healthy for the most part. We'll see if we can elevate his game. He regresses in the completion percentage. Goes from 59 to 47, 1,814 yards, 8 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, right? They pulled him at one particular point in for Joe Flacco, the veteran. That didn't pan out. He comes back. His best game was the victory over the New York Jets as a 4.5-point underdog. He puts up 272 passing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and leads the Colts to the road win. Outside of that, unless you're going to get that type of performance on each and every week, he's definitely not going to be the starter come week 10.
No, not week 10. Week 1, though, I would say yes. Like, if he does, it's his job to lose, right? Even if it's a 50-50 split, they got to find out what they have in him. And I know they tried year number 1. You said he was hurt for the most part, so you throw that out. Last year, he was basically a rookie. Didn't do well, had his moments in the sun. But you got to find out, this year, if he's your quarterback or not. So if it's an even split, he starts. If it's so much that Danny Nichols is the better, then that tells you about Anthony Richardson, and his career with the Colts is basically done. They won't pick up the 5th-year option, and you got to move on from him. So I would think he'll start, he'll fail, and he'll be out by week. I wouldn't even give him week 10. I would say depending on their schedule and how it plays out and who they have to play. But if they open up 1-3, I think that would be the last we've seen of Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, it's not a bad point. I sort of equate the situation to the Trey Lance situation with San Francisco, right? He was hurt. It didn't really pan out. Never really had a grasp of the offense. With not Schottenheimer. Now I zoned out in terms of San Francisco's head coach, Shanahan. But it's sort of similar, right? He comes with all the physical attributes. You just can't channel that into completion percentage and consistency. He's mobile enough where he can take games over like Jaden Daniels. Problem is, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. You give him 10 games this year, and he can't, let's say, get to at least 60% completion percentage, especially in the NFL, knowing that, some of those are short throws, bubble screens, slants. You can't complete those. You're not going to be a starting quarterback in the league. He might be relegated like Zach Wilson and Trey Lance is just a backup for the next 5 or 6 seasons.
Yeah. He really, Joe, probably had no business being a first-round draft choice. In a top 10, top 5? I think it was 5 or 6 in that area, right? 4, actually. Because he has too much learning to do. And you can't learn on the job in the NFL anymore. Yesteryear, okay, you know what? Struggle for a couple of years or sit the bench for a couple of years, learn your crap. You don't have that luxury in the NFL. So if he bombs out, doesn't mean he can't eventually be good, but he should have been a 4th or 5th round pick. Put him in the background, let him sit there for a couple of seasons. Then we'll give him a couple of opportunities. But again, you can't do that in the NFL. So more than likely, like you said, he'll start probably be just as bad. And it's a telling sign that you bring in a guy like Danny Jones, right? I mean, again, he's not awful. He's not great, but he's not. They didn't get just an absolute backup. They brought in a guy that they think can really step in and take them to the postseason. That tells you really what they think about Anthony Richardson.
And they said that already, that he would be in a quarterback battle. So, bigger question, 172 is the price for the Colts to make, plus 172 for the Colts to make the playoffs. Assuming that you're right, and let's say Daniel Jones is the starter for the back end of the regular season, would you take that number at plus 172, knowing that it's a winnable division? We agree that Houston, at least on paper, is the best team heading into 2025, but they could potentially regress. Would you take a shot with Daniel Jones? Let's say he does win the starting job and he starts from week 1. Is that a good number if you're backing a veteran quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Houston is going to win the division. So is the Colts team, are the Colts going to be able to get it as a wild card team? Yeah, I don't think so.
That's tough.
I wouldn't take
tough.
that. Yeah, tough in the AFC.
We'll see. We'll come back. We'll talk some other NFC win totals right here on Football Full Circle. Coming right back. Keep it where it is.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
In 1947, a movement among St. Louis Cardinals players to protest its first meeting with Jackie Robinson and the Dodgers is halted after owner Sam Braden spoke to the team. And in 1973, Ernie Banks fills in as Cubs manager after Whitey Lockman was ejected during the game. Technically, Banks became baseball's first African-American manager. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
New artificial intelligence research at the Institute of Science Tokyo intends to revolutionize the creation of perfume.
The sweet smell of petunias.
AI programmed with mass spectrometer profiles of essential oils rapidly creates new scents.
Subtle hints of desperation eau de toilette.
With user-defined odor descriptors.
Slightly burnt toast cologne.
Eliminating trial and error.
The clean woody scent of my laundry basket.
AI streamlining labor-intensive specialized perfuming means scalable production and unique fragrances.
I call it eau de sweaty tapeworm.
Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast.
I have been watching the lowly Pirates play. They are the most anemic, horrible lineup I've ever seen in my life. Stone, ground, ass, mustard.
It's Pharrell Coast to Coast with Scott Pharrell. Weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. On the home of the winning edge, the SportsGrid Radio Network. There comes a point when the chips are down.
To coin a phrase.
When the only thing you can do is stop and wait. Do you want to face that moment prepared?
Or rely on luck?
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing the conversation, off-season odds to make the playoffs, miss the playoffs. Just talked about the win total for the Indianapolis Colts. Could potentially Anthony Richardson relinquish the starting job to Daniel Jones? That's always a possibility. 7.5 is the win total. We'll jump on the NFC side, Scott. We'll give a couple of teams that you and I really haven't covered as it relates to the win totals. Seattle is a pretty interesting situation. 7.5 with Sam Darnold. They did draft Jalen Milroe in the 4th round. If Darnold's healthy, he's supposed to take this team to a playoff appearance. Did have 36 touchdowns last year with the Minnesota Vikings. 7.5 is the win total, exactly the same as the Colts. But they're minus 130 to the over. And you're getting plus money under the 7.5 wins, which I think I would take at plus 110. I'm not sold on McDonald, as a head coach. I know they have certain pieces that are nice, but I'm just not sold on the team overall. I would sell it and take the plus money at plus 110.
Yeah, I would go under too. I think they're more 7-10 team. You're not sold on the head coach. I'm not sold on Sam Darnold. I think he's going to regress back to the quarterback he was with the Jets and the Carolina Panthers. Without those monster weapons, I don't see it happening. I really don't. Playing in weather that's going to be cold and dreary, and there's a reason why teams weren't flocking to get him, right? He didn't even get the average price, which is $40 million. I mean, that's really right. The benchmark of halfway decent quarterback. You're going to get $40 million. He didn't even get that. So what does that tell you about Sam Darnold? There's a lot of doubters out there. Let him go. Now that he's not throwing to JJ and all the weapons that Minnesota has. Let's see how he does in Seattle. I would say it's going to be more negative than positive with him.
Well, let's look at the schedule because this matters as well as it relates to, just knowing their opponents. So we always take the NFC divisional opponents out of the equation. Home opponents, Scott, when you just look at it, Texans, Colts, Saints, Bucks, and Vikings. Not easy. Not easy for the home games. Texans obviously are legit. Buccaneers are legit. Vikings, all right, we'll just give them middle of the road. And to your point, the Colts, they're a much better team, we believe, if Daniel Jones is the quarterback as opposed to Anthony Richardson. So those are 4 games where they could potentially struggle. Road games for them, Panthers, Jaguars, Titans, Steelers, Commanders, and Falcons. What do you think?
That's not bad. There aren't any Green Bay, at Detroit, at Buffalo, at Baltimore, even home games on that schedule, right? Those are all, the Washingtons of the world, halfway to Tampa Bay. You got to play somebody. So those are halfway decent teams. But again, you don't have any Buffalo, you don't have any Baltimore, you don't have any Philadelphia, no Kansas City, no San Francisco. There's a lot of good teams. Eagles that they're avoiding. Boy, you look at that schedule. If they can't get to 8 wins, 8 and 9, I think I'm flipping. I think I'm going over 7.5.
You're going over with the minus 130?
Yeah.
You don't believe in Sam Darnold, though.
I know he sucks, but who's the backup? Who do we got back? Maybe they'll yank him after 4 games.
Well, what about Milroe? Jalen Milroe? They're going to go to a rookie?
They're going to go to a rookie. Maybe. Would they really give up on him so soon? Probably not. But 8 and 9 with that schedule, boy, again, if they can't get to 8 and 9, now they got one less home game. AFC's got the 9 home games.
They have Locke too. Excuse me. I think they have Locke as well. They got Drew Locke back.
Drew Locke, they signed him recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know he was a free agent.
From the Giants. So
yeah, he sucks.
But he sucks.
Yeah, I'd rather
he sucks.
Yeah,
he's terrible.
I'd rather Milroe.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
Milroe, but could Milroe be that guy to elevate you to 8-9 wins? That's tough, Scotty. I don't know. I'm still sticking to the under.
They got 10 last year. They're going to get 3 less wins?
That 10, I think, just came twofold. I think McDonald elevated the defense to a certain level. And again, you still had DK in that lineup. You're right. You had a Geno Smith, a veteran that understood the system, that elevated that team with Pete Carroll to a playoff appearance and 2 9-8 records. There was a little bit of confidence. Now they're starting to go the other way. I'm selling in 2025. We'll come back. We'll talk more team win totals right here on Football Full Circle. Coming right back. Wetzel and Lisi. Keep it where it is.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. Stanley Cup playoffs on Wednesday. The Maple Leafs beat the Panthers 4-3 to take a 2-0 series lead. Now the series shifts to Sunrise, Florida, where the defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers will look to get back in the series. Game 3 is Friday night. The Stars beat the Jets 3-2. Mikko Rantanen had a hat trick for Dallas. The Stars up 1-0 in the series. Game 2 is Friday in Winnipeg. Tonight, Hurricanes at Capitals. Game 2, Carolina leads the series 1-0. The Golden Knights will look to even up the Oilers at 1-1 at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. NBA tonight, the Warriors take on the Timberwolves. Game 2, Golden State up 1-0. Last night, Oklahoma City evened up its series with Denver at 1-1. They rolled past the Nuggets 149-106. The Knicks shocked the Celtics to go up 2-0, 91-90 the final. Save big when you bundle auto and home, renters, or condo with Progressive.
That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Lowe's helps refresh your garden in time for Mother's Day. Right now, get 5 bags of 1.5 cubic foot Scott's Naturescapes mulch for just $10. Plus, select 1.5 gallon annuals hanging baskets make the perfect gift. Now 2 for only $15. The best garden starts with great deals. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 5/7. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now, no more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
You're listening to Sports Grid.
Spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, jumping into the NFC odds, we left off talking of a couple of teams in the NFC. We did talk about Seattle and their win total 7.5 with Sam Darnold at the helm, plus money to the under. I'm taking a shot and selling the Seahawks in 2025. On yesterday's show, Scott and I went to Green Bay, which had a very interesting price to make the playoffs. Make the playoffs, they were behind some other teams in the conference at minus 106, minus 105. Today it's minus 106. And Scott and I said, that's a pretty weird number for Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. They did lose to the Philadelphia Eagles last year in the divisional round and got abused by the Eagles. But as long as they're healthy, they're one of the better teams in the conference. And I looked at their win total, Scott, and it's 9.5 on FanDuel. And it's juiced to the under at minus 135. It's plus 110 to the over, and we understand the division. But they still have the second best roster, I believe, over the Vikings and Bears. So you would think, hey, no problem. But then we said, it's got to be the schedule. So let's go through it. Outside the division, here it is, baby. Now we understand why. You ready? Outside the NFC North, home games. Eagles, Commanders, Ravens, Bengals, Panthers.
Wow.
Okay? Those are the home games, Scotty. Okay? Road games. Are you ready? Outside the conference. Cowboys, Giants, Browns, Steelers, Broncos, Cardinals.
Little better. I will say it is set up for them to have an all or bust season. In that, I always say this about these over-unders. If you're a really good team like they are, you want the better opponents at home, right, to give you that little edge. Because you could beat the snot out of the worst opponents, so you don't want to have the Tennessees and the Giants and all the bad teams at home because you could beat them on the road. So it does set, they got the tougher teams at home, but man, that's a brutal home schedule. And then you throw in the NFC North, is obviously very good as well. So does lighten up a little bit on the road, but that explains it. That does explain why the numbers are what they are. Because they had 11 wins last year, and they had a couple of games with Willis starting at quarterback. Right. So
and they lost
they still got 11
to Detroit. and they lost both games to Detroit last year, right? So they lose both games to Detroit, and they still had 11 wins. This is a very difficult schedule. They're going to have to pull at home 8 games to make that number. I'd say five and three at home, right?
Split the division. Can you get a split in the division? That's 8. So then you'd have to get 4 wins.
I mean, going into Pittsburgh, no matter who the quarterback is, not easy. Going into Mile High, not easy.
Not easy.
Going into the Giants, you never could say never. And we think that Dallas is, at least over the period of the last 3 years, has been a much better home team than they were last year. Obviously, they did start, 0-3 with Dak Prescott when he started at home. So we'll see if that continues. But this is tough. I still like the over for them, Scott. I would take a shot at the plus money, at plus 110. I think it's worthy, but we'll see. I mean, that's why it always pays when you're tying up your money for about eight months. Take a look at the schedule. Now, we don't know the dates of these games. We don't know the back-to-backs. That obviously plays into account as well, but that's not easy. Let's look at one more NFC team. Let's look at the team in their conference, okay, in their division. Chicago, 8.5. And I think we looked at this earlier, but they're 8.5, a full game higher than than the Green Bay Packers. They're plus 115 to the over. They have a rookie head coach, all new parts, new offensive line. We think it's revamped. Minus 135 to the under, Scott. You taking that or you taking the over? I can't buy in right now. I'm not buying the hype with Ben Johnson. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I would sell it, and I would continue to sell it until they prove me wrong. And I'm not sold that maybe Caleb Williams is the second coming of being the best quarterback in the league. So I'll sell them at minus 130 to the under. They could be a 7-10 team.
Yeah, I probably would as well, because they got to have a similar schedule. You can look here, like Green Bay, right? Remember, Green Bay wasn't a first-place team, so they didn't get the first-place teams. They got the second-place teams. So it's not like that's it. The Bears, their numbers, Joe, they're Dolphins-like. They're 3-18 straight up against winning teams. 3-18, and they're 1-20 on road Sunday games, right, for whatever reason. They won a couple Monday and Thursday night games on the road. So let's hear their schedule.
All right, ready? Outside the North, here's the home games, 5 of them. Dallas, Giants, Cleveland, Saints, and Steelers.
All right, it's so far it's working out good. The Bears, I don't put in the same class as Green Bay. Bears are like a mediocre team. So let's get those bad teams at home, give us the edge, and maybe we could go 4-1. At least 3-2, right? 4-1 at home against that group.
Okay, ready for the road games outside the conference? Are you buckled up? Are you buckled up?
It has
All
to
right.
be.
At Baltimore.
Loss.
At Cincinnati.
Loss.
At the Raiders.
Okay, maybe.
At Philadelphia.
Loss.
At San Francisco.
Loss.
At Washington.
Oof. Little revenge factor after what happened last year, right? So the Hail Mary. So maybe
but
little.
They have the same. They
want to get 2 wins if you're lucky.
They were at Washington. It's a similar schedule. They're like the 2025 home opponents. This is it. 2025. They were at San Francisco last year. They got boat raced. They were at Washington. That was the Hail Mary game. They lost both of those games, right? They lost one with Thomas Brown as head coach with the 49ers, and they lost one with Eberflus with the Commanders. Last year they were on the road in Arizona, so you give the Raiders you substitute it with the Raiders, but it's not going to be easy going up against Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. I don't see any way they get to. Yeah, how are they going to get to 9 wins though, Scotty? Yeah,
all right, so we'll give them. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They get 2 wins. That they beat the Commanders and they beat the Raiders. All right, we'll go benefit of the doubt. So that's 2.
Right.
And they get a split in the 6 games in the division. They never beat the Packers, so I can't say that.
They beat them last year.
We want to be optimistic. We want to be optimistic. All right, so let's give them 3.
Year. We'll give them 3. 3.
Now we're at 5. Now we need 4 wins at home. Give me those teams again. I know they were all winnable, but
4 wins at home. You ready? Outside the division.
Okay.
Cowboys, Giants, Browns, Steelers, and Saints.
I mean, that's 4-2. A lot of those teams are all close to Chicago. So while the Bears fans will be there, but you're going to get some Pittsburgh fans. You're going to get some fans of those teams.
Not easy.
Yeah, that realistically, best case you'd have to be 4-2. I don't think they go 4-2. I got to go under.
I think we sell that price. I think it's a good price to sell at -135. What's a better price? Let me just see. Playoffs there. Missed the playoffs price right now on FanDuel. It's probably 2-1. Let me just say -205. So you can't. It pays to hit the -135 at under 8.5. Could they be 9-8?
Right.
It's possible and still miss the playoffs. But I would rather take the under 8.5. Because everybody's going to pump up Ben Johnson, right? Everybody's
drinking the Johnson Kool-Aid right now.
This is the guy. He's the savior. This is Mike Ditka 2.0 coming to Soldier Field. We'll come back. We'll talk some AFC win totals. Coming right back on Football Full Circle.
Saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie.
Just saying.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. This update brought to you by Centos. A man police say crashed into Jennifer Aniston's front gate is charged with stalking and vandalism. 48-year-old Jimmy Carwile also faces an aggravated circumstance of the threat of great bodily harm. He allegedly harassed the Friends star for 2 years before crashing into the gate in the Bel Air neighborhood Tuesday. The Federal Reserve kept its key interest rate unchanged on Wednesday, saying the risks of both higher unemployment and higher inflation have risen, putting the central bank in a difficult spot. The Fed kept its rate at 4.3% for the third straight meeting. Many economists still expect the Fed will reduce rates this year. Disney will build its 7th theme park, this one in the United Arab Emirates. The waterfront resort will be built on Yas Island on the outskirts of Abu Dhabi. The theme park announcement is being made ahead of a visit by President Donald Trump to the region next week. Trump has promised a series of business deals with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
With Progressive, renters can save on protection for the things that make your place yours, even things that don't make sense to everyone.
People always wonder why I don't get rid of my guitar since I never play. But it's like, what if I actually end up taking lessons? Sure, I've had it for 8 years, but if I get rid of it, then what will my New Year's resolution be next January?
Exactly. So bundle your renters and auto and save with Progressive and protect the things that make sense to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers not available in all states or situations. Covered subject to policy terms and conditions.
Military veterans and active duty service members, you could become a certified cyber warrior with just 12 weeks of training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, and IT pros with these skills often enjoy abundant opportunity and a great lifestyle. Protect our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. GI Bill, SkillBridge, and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
Remember when you were thankful you could just get AM and FM?
Things have progressed.
Now even an app on your phone can give you a 21st century thrill with that little drop of heaven called the deposit notification. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, breaking down player props, win totals. We've covered it all this week, and we like doing this, especially in the offseason. This is where potentially you could pick off value. I know that Scott and I have been going through the make and miss playoffs. They do have some other categories up, Scott. We'll see if we can touch on them. But I do want to go back to the divisional odds for the NFC North, because when we did this about a week ago, Minnesota was in the area of about 440, right, to win the division. and they had, I feel like the Bears were like at a 7-1 number. I could be wrong, but they're 5-1 right now on FanDuel. They've closed the gap on Minnesota by, I think, a significant margin. You got Minnesota at plus 460. The Packers at plus 270 to win the NFC North. So I do want to just equate it to the win total. If you believe that the Packers could go over the 9.5, and we said that number was plus 130 to the over, you should take a shot for them to win the NFC North. Plus 270 is almost a 3-1 price. I mean, if there's regression out of Detroit with a new OC in DC, that number's not going to be there after potentially September.
What's the you got the Lions schedule? Can you look that up? Because I'd be curious to know if Green Bay's got that tough a schedule, then, and again, that's a second place schedule. So there's 3 games that, now Detroit would be playing those same teams as Green Bay, except 3 games against first place teams, whereas Green Bay is playing 3 games against second place teams. So that Detroit schedule must be just murder.
You ready?
I will tell you. Go ahead. Their win total. I'll tell you this: their win total for the Lions is 10.5 plus money to the over.
What were they last year? Were they 10.5? I think they
were 11.5.
I think they were too. Higher. All right, so ready? Home games outside the conference, outside the division. Dallas, New York Giants, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay.
So I can tell you they got it reversed. They got the bad teams at home. You're going to rattle off some good teams on the road. They could be in trouble.
Yeah. All right, ready? Ready for these good teams outside the division. Okay, no NFC North. Washington, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Kansas City, and the Rams.
Wow. See, that's what I mean. They got the good you got to get the good teams at home to help you beat them.
Should we sell the
Giants?
We sell them?
Yeah.
Scott,
too bad the Packers don't have. Too bad the Packers have that crazy schedule. Otherwise, I'd say bet them to win the division. I mean, that leaves the door open for Minnesota and Chicago. I mean, that's a tough road schedule.
So let's think of this, okay? Let's think of this. What's the better number? So under 10.5 for them, right, is minus 140. Let me just double check that.
Yeah.
It's minus 140. For them to miss the playoffs, right? Detroit to miss the playoffs is we did this yesterday, but I want to double check it. They are plus 210 to miss the playoffs. Plus 210. So you
better all bet plus 210.
Or, Scott, if we see now, this is why you have to shop around even in FanDuel. Because to miss the playoffs, right? They were plus 210. If you go to stages of elimination to miss the playoffs, they're plus 200. They're taking off. It's crazy, right?
It happens all the time. All the time. Yeah. There's always variations for some reason.
So I would like to do, for me, I would like to lose in the wild card round at 3-1 and miss the playoffs at plus 210.
That's not bad. I think to miss the playoffs, 9-8's not going to get you in the postseason in the NFC. So could they go 10 I don't think so. 10-7, you could go 10-7 and miss, I suppose. But I'll take the chance. You get an extra. You go from minus 140 to plus money if you just take the under, or to not make the playoffs. Now, again, could they finish 10-7 and make the playoffs? You lose your bet that way versus under 10.5. Yes, but I think if they're going to have a bad season, then it's going to be a bad season. I would go more with the plus 210 or plus 200 to not make the playoffs.
And I think I would like to make that bet this year as opposed to any other year because you're starting the year with a new OC and new DC, right? And even though Philadelphia was able to race out to a 10-1 record, we saw what happened in the second half of the season. If, let's just say, they don't start as fast and they start slow and they start 1-5, Detroit, now you're cooking with fire, right? They get a slow start in terms of the schedule with a new OC and new DC. pressure's going to be on them to potentially run the second half of the schedule, and knowing that these opponents that they have to face on the road, that we might be able to cash out and miss the playoffs at the midway point if we're getting plus money, right? So it might not.
And it's Jared Goff on the road in cold weather sites. If they end up playing these games, in
Right.
December in Baltimore and Cincinnati and Philadelphia. I mean, those are good luck with Jared Goff on the road in those spots.
I like the bet, Scotty. Plus 210 to miss the playoffs might be the way to go, right?
Yeah.
When you think about the schedule and how it plays out for everybody, they're gonna have to be to win the division too, Scott. Are they gonna win it at 10-7? Are they gonna win it at 10-7? Under their total, but win the division. It's possible, but that's why I would like. But that's why I like Green Bay. That has a 9.5 win total. You're getting 3-1 to win the division.
Yeah. I don't know how Green Bay's schedule seems to be a little bit tougher than Detroit's, and they were the second place team. But I got more faith in Green Bay and Jordan Love than I do, craziness and Jared Goff.
I agree with you. It's something to look at. And if you want to take a shot in terms of Green Bay's total, in terms of where they are, stages of elimination, I think they're plus money as well to lose in the wild card round. We'll come back and we'll wrap it up right here on Football Full Circle.
Is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's stark but true.
You can either listen to SportsGrid for strategies, odds, and more, or you can pay your bills by digging in your couch cushions for change.
Just be sure to wear gloves.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, wrapping up today's show, we left off talking about the Detroit Lions. They're priced to potentially miss the playoffs at plus 210 on FanDuel. They do have the best price to win the division. They were the #1 seed in the NFC. Scott, if we don't believe the Lions, and I don't, I think could be a slight regression for the Lions this year. I think the Pack could potentially maybe overtake them. I like them plus 270. If we think the Lions could be, let's say, second best team, right, in the division, plus 230, for the exact finish on FanDuel. If they're third in the division, they're plus 410. Would you make that? I would take a shot on second and third. I really would. I think second seems more realistic, but knowing how tight the division is, they potentially could fall to third, and you hit a 4-1 price.
Yeah. I wonder how they would do that as far as tiebreakers are concerned. Would it be an actual tiebreaker, or would it be if you both have the same record that it's a tie? Or do they actually break it down into the tiebreaker? I'd like to know that before I place that bet.
Right.
And do you lose half the bet if it is just a straight tie, like dead heat rules apply, at least on FanDuel? So, but I can see it is Jared Goff. I don't know what this poor guy needs to do to have the world believe in him, but I don't. I still just say, you know why? Because his downside, everyone has bad games, right? But his bad games are so bad. He just looks so clueless out there. And then you got Dan Campbell, who I'm not a fan of. So I can see them implode. But believe it or not, I'm not. Another former Dolphin, by the way, assistant coach, Dan Campbell. They all are. Ben Johnson, the whole division's full of former Dolphin assistant coaches.
Problem is, none of them have become our head coach, and we can't elevate past the hack that we have in Mike McDaniel. If that were the case, maybe I'd buy in a little bit more. But think about this. Think about this.
We had Dan Campbell, let him go. We had Ben Johnson, let him go. And we decided not to hire Mike Tomlin because, for whatever reason, he wasn't good enough. That's the Dolphin legacy as far as head coaches are concerned.
I know. So here's Jared Goff the last 2 years. 4,629 passing yards last year, 37 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 72% completion percentage. 2 years ago, it was 67% completion percentage, 45-75, 30 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. He had a 111.8 passer rating last year, and you're not buying into Jared Goff. He had like 4 straight games, Scott, where he had basically only 8 or 9 incompletions, and you're not buying into this guy. You would much rather buy into who? Who? Russell Wilson than Jared Goff?
Caleb Williams, maybe. And you know what? He's been a bettor's dream too. I mean, his numbers 8-0 against the Lions or against the Twins, Vikings against the spread. 19-4 as an underdog against the spread. 18-9 off a loss against the spread. 9-0 off a double-digit loss against the spread. I mean, on and on. Double-digit favorite. 11-2 straight up. 8-5 against the spread. He's the best spread quarterback in the NFL.
And you think he sucks?
He doesn't suck, but I can't count on him. Is he going into Philadelphia or Baltimore or even Cincinnati if those games are all in December and winning on the road?
Well, we'll see. He plays them this year, so let's see. I agree with you. I'm selling Detroit a little bit short. I'm not selling Detroit because of Goff. I'm selling Detroit because of the continuity. I don't know if the OC, the DC are going to just hit the ground running just because it's a similar scheme. I'll take a shot the other way. And because this team's been close, you make it to the NFC Championship game. This isn't the Eagles or San Francisco or, talking about the resume for years like the Green Bay Packers or even the Giants that have been there, done that. This is an organization, for the most part, in Detroit that has been a losing organization, and they've had their best success with Dan Campbell at the helm, and they still haven't been able to get over the hump, even when they led San Francisco 24-17 2 years ago in the championship game.
But these coordinators, you keep on saying this though, Joe, but they didn't bring new guys in.
Doesn't
the
matter.
Defensive coordinator was a linebackers coach. The other guy's been there, as a senior assistant since 2022. So it's not like they're really changing everything.
No, but here's the thing, Scott. I always say this, coordinators, even if it's the same scheme, they see the game through a different set of eyes. We can break that down tomorrow in terms of what that means. For Danny Orlers, our great producer, Scott Wetzel, Joe Lisi. We'll see you tomorrow on Football Full Circle. Have a great day, everyone.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. but we call it the Winning Edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.